Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Bold and beautiful today. James Warwick arrives, claiming that Steffy is his biological daughter. His gaze, sharp and unsettlingly familiar beneath the weight of years and unspoken burdens, bypassed the chrome and glass opulence, zeroing in with unnerving precision on Steffy Forrester Finnegan. She stood bathed in the California sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, embodying the effortless grace and fierce confidence that were her birthright, a living testament to the Forrester legacy, draped in a design bearing her own name. Yet, as James watched her command the room, a slight tremor in his weathered hand, the only betrayal of the cataclysm he was about to unleash, he saw not just the formidable CEO, the beloved daughter, the devoted mother, but a reflection, echoes of a younger Beth Logan in the curve of her cheekbone, a certain stubborn set to her jaw that wasn't ridges, and most unnervingly, eyes that held the same penetrating depth, the same stormy intensity, as his own. He had rehearsed this moment for decades, haunted by the specter of a choice made in desperation and secrecy, but no amount of preparation could armor him against the visceral shock of seeing her, the living consequence of a single, hidden night. Steffy, sensing the weight of an unfamiliar stare, turned, her trademark poise momentarily faltering as her eyes met his, a stranger, yet one whose gaze resonated with a disturbing, inexplicable intimacy. Before she could summon security or a cutting dismissal, James closed the distance, his voice, rough with suppressed emotion and decades of silence, slicing through the ambient hum of the office with a quietude that was far more terrifying than any shout. Steffy. My name is James Warwick. And I believe, no, I know. I have reason to know, with absolute certainty, that I am your biological father. The words hung in the air, not dissipating, but expanding, filling the vast space with a suffocating pressure. Time seemed to fracture. The bustling office faded into a muffled blur, the sunlight felt suddenly harsh, exposing. Steffy's breath hitched, a sharp, involuntary sound. Her world, meticulously built on the unshakable foundation of being Ridge Forrester and Taylor Hayes's daughter, heir to the Forrester name and empire, cornerstone of her very identity, imploded in that single sentence. 1,000 fragmented images collided in her mind, Ridge's stern pride, Taylor's unwavering devotion, childhood Christmases at the mansion, fierce battles fought alongside Thomas against Logan intrigues, the weight of the Forrester mantle she bore with both privilege and responsibility, all rendered instantly, horrifyingly, precarious. A disbelieving laugh, brittle and devoid of humor, escaped her lips. What? That's insane. Ridiculous. Her voice, usually so assured, wavered, betraying the seismic shock beneath the surface. James remained unnervingly calm, a rock against the tsunami of disbelief radiating from her. He saw the denial flash in her eyes, his eyes, the instinctive recoil, the desperate grasp for the familiar narrative. I understand how it sounds, he said, his tone low, urgent, yet laced with an undeniable gravity. Believe me, I've lived with the weight of this knowledge, the impossibility of it, for your entire life. But it's the truth. A truth buried for too long. He didn't offer platitudes or immediate proof, the starkness of his claim, delivered with such quiet conviction, carried its own terrifying weight. He spoke of a time of profound vulnerability, a period when Taylor Hayes, grappling with the shattering betrayal of Ridge's enduring entanglement with Brooke Logan and the fresh wounds of separation, had sought solace in a place far removed from the pressures of Los Angeles and the Forrester orbit. James, himself adrift in the aftermath of his own complicated history with the Forresters and Logans, his past entanglement with Beth Logan, Steffy's own grandmother, adding another layer of bitter irony, had found himself in that same space of quiet despair. It was a moment of human weakness, James admitted, his gaze fixed on Steffy's ashen face, watching the color drain as if life itself was receding. Two souls, profoundly hurt, seeking a fleeting connection, a temporary harbor from their storms. It was brief, Steffy. A mistake, perhaps, in the harsh light of day. But it happened. The implication hung heavy, a single, consequential encounter that predated Taylor's reconciliation and remarriage to Ridge, an event meticulously hidden, a secret carried alone. The revelation that Taylor had known, or at least suspected, the possibility during her pregnancy was another brutal blow. She was terrified, James continued, the memory etching lines of pain on his face. Terrified of Ridge's reaction, terrified of scandal destroying the fragile peace, terrified of what it would mean for you, even then, unborn. She came to me, Steffy. Confused, desperate. We agreed that burying it was the only way to protect everyone. Especially you. To give you the life, the name, the security of being a Forrester. Steffy swayed slightly, her hand instinctively flying to her abdomen, a gesture mirroring the phantom memory of her own mother decades earlier. The image of Taylor, her pillar of strength, her confidant, carrying this secret, her secret, for nearly 4 decades, was devastating. It wasn't just the biological fact, it was the magnitude of the lie, woven into the very fabric of her existence by the 2 people she trusted most. The carefully curated family albums, the stories of her birth, the shared traits attributed to Ridge, all suddenly felt like an elaborate performance, a beautiful, suffocating illusion. The ramifications exploded in her mind like shrapnel. Finn. Her rock, her safe haven. How could she explain this to him? His wife, the Forrester heiress, was suddenly not a Forrester at all? What did that make Kelly and Hayes? Her precious children, their lineage suddenly fractured, their connection to the dynasty that defined their world now ambiguous. And Ridge. Her father. The man whose approval she'd fought for, whose legacy she championed, whose gruff love was a cornerstone. Who was he to her now? The man who raised her, yes, but also the man who, in this new, horrifying light, might have been unknowingly living a lie himself. The fierce loyalty she felt towards him warred violently with a burgeoning sense of betrayal, not by Ridge, but by the universe, by the deception that had placed him in that role. Then, the Forrester-Logan feud, the battlefield upon which so much of her life had been fought. Her rivalry with Hope, always framed as Forrester versus Logan, but if James Warwick was her biological father, where did that leave her? Was she still a Forrester? Was she a Logan by some distant connection through James's past with Beth? Or was she simply Steffy Warwick? The name felt alien, terrifying, stripping her of her armor. The empire she helped build, the designs she created under the Forrester crest, did they belong to her anymore? The power, the influence, the very nameplate on her office door, Steffy Forrester Finnegan, suddenly seemed like borrowed finery. A tremor started deep within her, a physical manifestation of the ground dissolving beneath her feet. The confident CEO, the fierce protector, the beloved daughter, felt frighteningly small, adrift in a suddenly unrecognizable world. Her vision blurred, the sleek lines of the Forrester lobby swimming before her. The confident voice that commanded boardrooms and soothed her children failed her. A single, broken word escaped, barely a whisper, laden with a lifetime of shattered certainty, "Mama." It was a plea, a desperate call for the anchor that had always held her steady, now revealed as complicit in the greatest deception imaginable. As her knees buckled, the polished marble floor rushing up to meet her, the last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was James Warwick's face, etched with a profound, agonizing mixture of regret, sorrow, and an undeniable, terrifying paternal concern. The earthquake had struck, the aftershocks, reshaping the landscape of her life, her family, and the very foundation of Forrester Creations, were only just beginning. The truth was out, a Pandora's box flung wide open, and nothing for Steffy Forrester Finnegan, or anyone who loved her, would ever be the same again. The reflection in the glass was now a stranger, and the journey to understand who she truly was had begun with a devastating fall. Finn's clue, Steffy's exit strategy, and Grace spies. Steffy Forrester Finnegan will choose to temporarily leave town. John Finn Finnegan is being spied on by Grace Buckingham. It appears that when Grace operated on Liam Spencer, she made a serious error. Let's discuss the upcoming events in the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. Forrester, Steffy Finnegan's plan of exit. Steffy and Finn converse in the Cliff home. The brunette needs some time away from town in order to rejuvenate. Of course, the doctor adds, he's okay with it. They discuss Liam's surgery. According to Finn, the procedure appears to have gone well, but Grace is evading his inquiries. Bill Spencer's appreciation. A nurse comes over to Bill Spencer's residence to see how Liam is doing. The patient is making a full recovery. Liam and his father chat after she leaves. Bill is appreciative that he was able to afford this procedure. The father and son embrace as they become emotional. Finn pays Liam a visit. Liam and the doctor are alone as Bill exits to answer a call. Sheila Carter Sharp dropped by, Liam informs him. The patient describes how Sheila was thanked by Steffy. The recuperation becomes the new topic. Finn inquires as to if he has received any additional details regarding the process. Liam hasn't. Finn looks puzzled as he examines his incisors. In a process like this, they are far smaller than they would ordinarily be. Grace observes from a distance before establishing her presence. Grace is happy that she's recovered. Liam claims that despite having recently undergone extensive surgery, he feels strangely well. Grace freaks out inwardly as Finn says, "It's amazing." The push of Eric Forrester. Ridge Forrester and Eric Forrester are about to depart for Italy at Forrester Creations. Ridge is still being harassed by Eric regarding Brooke Logan. Taylor Hayes is still berating Brooke in another office. Nick Marone comes up to Brooke after Taylor stomps off. Nick and the blonde are expected to depart from their agenda. Ridge walks in and watches Nick kiss Brooke with a frown. Entering, Steffy is confident that the trip will be a great success. She needs a break, on her part. Steffy cautions her father from caving in to Brooke's entreaties. Eric is aware of Nick's trip to Italy because he follows him. Eric tells him not to get involved. Ridge is engaged to another woman, according to Nick. Brooke gushes about the vacation as everyone reunites and Taylor looks directly at Steffy. Nick remembers his time with Brooke in Capri as Taylor gives Ridge a kiss. Liam Spencer's life-altering surgery, a procedure that became the catalyst for Steffy Forrester Finnegan's desperate need for escape, ignited Grace Buckingham's frantic cover-up operation, and unknowingly planted the first, crucial seed of doubt in Dr. John Finn Finnegan's mind, a doubt that threatened to unravel a carefully constructed deception and expose a potentially catastrophic medical error. Seeking solace from the relentless emotional whirlwind that was her life, the ever-present shadow of Sheila Carter Sharp's disruptive influence, the complex, often painful dynamics involving Liam, Hope, and her own husband Finn, and the recent high-stakes medical crisis involving her ex-husband, Steffy made a pivotal decision within the comforting walls of the Cliff House, confiding in Finn her urgent need to physically remove herself from the pressure cooker of Los Angeles, if only temporarily, to find a space where she could breathe, recalibrate, and truly recharge her battered spirit. Finn, ever supportive and understanding of the immense burdens his wife carried, readily agreed, his primary concern being her well-being, though their conversation inevitably circled back to the elephant in the room, Liam's remarkably swift and complication-free recovery from a surgery Finn himself hadn't performed, leading Finn to voice his growing unease about Grace Buckingham, the surgeon who had operated, noting her peculiar evasiveness whenever he probed for detailed post-operative insights or clarifications on the procedure's specifics, an avoidance that felt less like professional discretion and more like a deliberate dodge, sparking the first flicker of professional curiosity mixed with personal concern in Finn, a flicker Grace was desperately trying to extinguish through covert surveillance and carefully constructed platitudes. Indeed, while Steffy sought sanctuary in distance, Grace Buckingham was plunging deeper into a self-made quagmire of paranoia, her initial relief at Liam's survival rapidly curdling into icy terror as Finn's polite but persistent inquiries began chipping away at her facade, forcing her into the shadows to monitor Finn's interactions with Liam, terrified that the brilliant doctor, her colleague, might stumble upon the truth she was frantically burying, the horrifying possibility, the near certainty gnawing at her conscience, that she had made a critical, potentially negligent error during Liam's surgery, a mistake so grave that its revelation would annihilate her career, shatter the Spencer family's fragile peace, and possibly have unthinkable legal and personal repercussions. This undercurrent of dread contrasted sharply with the scene unfolding at Bill Spencer's luxurious mansion, where gratitude washed over the patriarch like a warm, albeit fragile, wave. A private nurse confirmed Liam's recovery was progressing exceptionally well, bordering on miraculous, allowing father and son a rare moment of unguarded emotion. Bill, his voice thick with relief and the potent awareness of his privilege, expressed profound gratitude for the wealth that had secured this life-saving intervention for his son, a sentiment met with equal emotional weight from Liam, culminating in a heartfelt embrace that spoke volumes of their complicated but deep bond. Finn's arrival for a checkup briefly paused this intimacy, with Bill stepping away to take a call, leaving doctor and patient alone. Liam, still processing the surreal events, shared the unexpected visit from Sheila Carter-Sharp and, more jarringly for Finn, the revelation that Steffy had actually thanked Sheila, a detail that undoubtedly added another layer of complexity to Finn's understanding of the fraught relationship surrounding him. Shifting focus to the medical, Finn seized the moment to ask Liam directly if he'd received any further information about the surgical details from Grace, to which Liam replied negatively, prompting Finn to conduct a more thorough examination, specifically focusing on Liam's surgical sites. It was during this routine check that Finn's experienced I caught an anomaly. Liam's incisors, teeth critically involved in the type of maxillofacial reconstruction Liam underwent, appeared significantly smaller than the surgical norm for such a procedure. Finn's brow furrowed in genuine professional bafflement, a silent question mark hanging in the air. Why would the teeth be reduced so drastically? Was this intentional? If so, why wasn't it documented or discussed? Unbeknownst to him, Grace lurked nearby, her spying intensifying as she witnessed Finn's perplexed expression, her internal panic escalating into a full-blown silent scream when Liam, echoing Bill's earlier sentiment, remarked on feeling surprisingly good despite the major surgery, and Finn, still puzzling over the dental anomaly but acknowledging the positive clinical picture, echoed Liam's sentiment with a casual, "It's incredible," words that struck Grace like physical blows, confirming her worst fears. The incredible recovery was likely a direct, dangerous consequence of her mistake, a reality she couldn't afford to have Finn investigate further. Meanwhile, the world of Forrester creations provided no respite from tension, merely a different flavor of it. As Eric Forrester and Ridge Forrester prepared for their pivotal business trip to Italy, Eric continued his relentless campaign, subtly yet persistently needling Ridge about Brooke Logan, clearly hoping to reignite old flames during the romantic Italian backdrop, a notion Ridge seemed determined to resist, focused on his commitment to Taylor Hayes. Taylor, however, was far from secure, actively confronting Brooke in another office, unleashing her insecurities and warnings before storming away, leaving Brooke momentarily vulnerable. This vulnerability was quickly exploited by Nick Marone, who arrived to collect Brooke's itinerary, a meeting that culminated in a kiss witnessed by a fuming Ridge, instantly injecting fresh romantic complication into the already fraught Italy trip. Steffy's arrival at the offices added another layer. Her announcement of her own planned time away met with understanding, but she immediately pivoted to her father, delivering a stern warning not to succumb to any pleas or manipulations from Brooke during the Italian sojourn, a clear reinforcement of Taylor's position. Eric, ever the strategist, followed Nick, delivering a blunt command not to interfere in Ridge and Brooke's dynamic in Italy, a command Nick defiantly countered by reminding Eric of Ridge's engagement to Taylor, highlighting the tangled web of past and present relationships that threatened to ensnare the business trip. The final scene before departure encapsulated the simmering tensions. The group reconvened, Taylor locking meaningful, possessive eyes with Steffy in a silent alliance against Brooke, while Brooke effusively gushed about the trip's potential, blissfully unaware of the landmines ahead. Taylor solidified her claim with a kiss for Ridge, and Nick, standing apart, was lost in vivid, provocative memories of his own past with Brooke and Capri, a potent reminder that the past in this world is never truly buried, merely waiting for the right, or wrong, moment to resurface. Just as Grace Buckingham's surgical secret now trembled on the brink of exposure, tethered precariously to Steffy's absence, Finn's burgeoning suspicion over a seemingly minor dental clue, and the terrified vigilance of a surgeon who knew her incredible result was built on a foundation of catastrophic error. Steffy Forrester Finnegan and her husband John Finn Finnegan felt heavy with the lingering shadows of recent trauma as Steffy voiced a decision born of profound exhaustion, needing to physically distance herself from the suffocating memories of Sheila Carter-Sharp's violent siege and the relentless emotional fallout. Steffy revealed her plan to temporarily leave Los Angeles, seeking a respite to truly recharge, a simple word masking the complex whirlwind of fear, anger, and lingering PTSD that Sheila's actions had etched onto her soul. Finn, ever the supportive partner masking his own complex web of conflicted feelings about his biological mother's capacity for evil, readily agreed, his primary concern Steffy's healing, even as their conversation inevitably turned towards the other seismic event shaking their world, Liam Spencer's life-saving spinal surgery, performed under Finn's supervision but executed by the increasingly elusive nurse Grace Buckingham. Finn's brow furrowed as he confided in Steffy about Grace's peculiar behavior. She was actively avoiding his pointed post-operative questions, a professional breach that felt less like oversight and more like deliberate evasion, casting the first faint but distinct shadow of doubt over the surgery's true narrative. This shadow deepened dramatically miles away in the sterile opulence of Bill Spencer's mansion, where gratitude warred with underlying tension. A nurse monitored Liam's recovery, pronounced remarkably swift and positive, prompting an emotionally raw moment between father and son. Bill, his characteristic bluster softened by genuine terror and relief, expressed profound thankfulness for the wealth that secured this miracle surgery, leading to a rare, heartfelt embrace, a testament to the depths of their bond forged in crisis. Finn's arrival for a checkup shifted the dynamic. Bill excused himself for a call, leaving doctor and patient alone, where Liam, perhaps fueled by residual pain medication or a need for honest